So how you can tell is generally your actions tend towards for the benefit of all.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are very immersed in your sense of separate self, everything you're doing is for yourself. Or for some people, you become a martyr, but it's still as the self. When you start to permeate deeply, or let's say become informed by pure consciousness, you tend to act in a way that's beneficial for all, whoever's present. So it might be something like um, uh, really small things, like you retreat from an argument, right? Someone goes, no, 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 and you go, okay, yeah, okay, you're probably right. Just little small things like that. Or you might, just like offer a commentary to someone in a way that is like available, or do things for yourself that is beneficial. And it happened in different ways. For me, it became beneficial thoughts. That was the first thing. Extremely beneficial thoughts. I stopped beating myself up. I stopped hating on myself. I stopped feeling I was this and that. Then what came was beneficial emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I just started to feel at ease and at peace with whatever's going on. And that affected my family and my friends close to me. The latest and slowest one for me, and it can be any order for anybody else, was beneficial actions to my body.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been the slow, but someone else might go the other way. But you just start to notice you real benefit. And, what one, my family, for however they are, I used to always argue all the time with all my family. We come from a very intense background, and that just stopped. And I'm able to make jokes. I'll give you one very personal example. I'd been away for 4 years because of the COVID thing. And I went into my parents' house. I was in for 4 years, and I've got my imagination of what it's going to be like. And my dad is lying on the sofa with a magazine. And I went, "Hey, Dad." And he just held the magazine. He went, "Hi." Like, he didn't even look up because he's got his own traumatic experiences. And it was like, it hit really hard. But I sometimes explain that when pain arises when you understand your nature, it arises and liberates at the same time. And I literally looked at him, and I picked up a magazine and I held it over my face and I said, "Good to know." And then we started talking with the magazine, and then he's laughing, right? And it's
Is
like, I would never have done that if I wasn't able just to be with myself and allow this liberation to appear. I would have been really furious because, remember, we was a very odd mental. I would have gone berserk. So how you know that this is truth is it shows up as a source of support in difficult circumstances where you are able to tend the situation towards more benefit. Not always, but mostly. And I often call it the great catcher's mitt. Like, somewhere it catches you. It might not be immediate. It might be 5 seconds. It might be half an hour. It might be a day. But you will be the one that will go back to that relationship and say, "Hey, sorry about that. Um, let's recover." That's what happens. You don't fixate in this separate self with this immovable posture where the ego is so wrapped up in being right. All of that fades away. And that is the nature of human beings. This is what we're all tending towards. This easeful way of being with each other. That's how you know it's truth.
that so as you were talking that for so long I've known the Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths, like all those, and it's almost as though like those felt like goals for me. Like I need to live this way to achieve this, but it's almost more like they are. I can recognize how my life is just kind of naturally becoming aligned with those, and it's like it's less of a goal and maybe more of a metric or like a you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, look, right? So the Buddha didn't sit down and come up with the Eightfold Path.
Right, right, of course. Yeah, I know.
Path was an attempt to try and follow what I've done.
Yes.
So I sometimes now I love Buddhism and I think there's great Buddhist schools, but and I'm gonna finish this comment with clarification, but just as a pointing moment, I sometimes call these things vampire schools, right? So you go along, you put in your mouth, you get some red blood, you spike your hair, or I get a wig, wear a coat, sleep in a coffin during the day, and hopefully I become a vampire. Right? Or you can just be bitten, right? And you would you start to adopt these meditative ways of being. I had a friend, well, he was a student, but his friend came here, and he literally spent 4 hours a day just sitting around doing nothing because that's what he was just like. It's just so sweet to be with myself. Now, I don't want it to make it as if I'm talking against Buddhism. Those temple practices are actually extremely important because they help deal with some of the causes and conditions that can still remain after awakening, and they prepare you for that. Where in our neo Advaita world, people are being shown great teachings without necessarily having the mental and emotional preparation to deal with it, and it can be quite problematic to a degree, where people they either start teaching too early or they just don't like they sometimes go back to addictions because it's all empty or all kinds of things. So those temple practices that Buddhism teach, they're very, very powerful, and I encourage them. I actually started way after all of this awakening process, visiting Buddhist teachings to sit in the strict austerity of that environment and enjoy the mentor. There's a place in Chiang Mai that is a Mahayana Buddhist school, and I go along and you line up all your slippers and you walk around slowly and you sit all day and watch teachings, and I absolutely love it. But when I was first exploring this, I couldn't even sit still, let alone meditate. I took the direct path because it was my only option. I was too discombobulated in my life to even do a Vipassana. So the direct path is like, it's the great equalizer for those that really struggle. It allows everybody to join through this because the awakening is we start with awakening and then we work backwards. Where the other schools, I think it must be very funny, it's somewhat funny, to go to a Tibetan Buddhist school for 15 years, and at the end they say, yeah, there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
So, and I had a great teacher once called Annie Zamba, she passed last year, and she was very great. She said to me, all, because I used to think Dzogchen was the best teaching. She's a Dzogchen master. She's like, why do you think that? That's ridiculous. I'm like, well, it is though. She goes, you think that, but every person has a karmic connection with a teaching. And if you find it, enjoy it. So I went a little bit off your topic, but I was just wanted to round off the understanding that um, these these this desire to ape practices of sages is natural, but what's more natural is those practices start to show up in your life because that's how they first appeared. Someone watched someone going, wow, this person's what's going on here? I'm going to do what they do. It's very natural human practice, and there is a lot of benefit. But the real power is to just know your nature and regularly observe it. Regularly observe it. The reason why this friend was doing 4 hours, 5 hours a day watching his nature, because the rest of his life he's not watching it. So he took that time to do that, but it was natural. So yeah, I hope that answers
Thank you.
or offers some support at least.
It does so
Very
much. I appreciate it. Thanks.